Hey family, Tacc man, how's your spirit? Talk to me. Tell me something good. I'm doing a freestyle tonight. One second. And why I'm doing a freestyle is because of, like I tell you guys, my brother's in the hospital. Uh, had a major stroke, and I got a call from his son. And the reason why I'm saying this. What's up, baby boy? Love is love. I got on a little late today. I was talking to my nephew. Just have a good conversation. The last time I talked to him, he cursed me out. Uh, and I was puzzled by it, because I didn't know what I had done. Then when he told me, I was baffled because it wasn't me that said it. It was my other brother. But, my family has villainized me so much, you know, to cover other things up. And I'm not mad about that. That's just part of life. Uh but it was a good feeling to be able to talk to my nephew. And he even told me, man, love you. That made me feel good because I've put this barrier up, with everyone, because of the things that have gone on and transpired in my life. And you know it it felt good. I met his son, at least one of his sons. He got 3 kids. I didn't even know that. He didn't even know that I got shot last year. This is how much I've been villainized. I don't know nothing about the family. The family don't know nothing about me unless, it's close. And it's sad because we we are our own worst enemies at times. And yeah, it is crazy. But, you know, that's just how life is. This is how, you know, when I tell you, you have to, through adversity comes change. This is why you have to go through your adversities. So whatever adversity you went through, yeah, ain't no question. Yeah, they cut me off. But the fucked up part about it is they cut me off for a lie. They made me into the villain. And I'm cool with that. You know, that's cool. You know, I don't mind being a villain, but don't lie on me. That's the thing. But and that happens, you know. And there's no more tougher than family, so you have to understand it. And this is why I was saying last night it was about forgiveness, you know, and it has to come from here, your heart, you know. Like I tell you, man, I'm not mad at nobody. I forgive everybody, and I thank them for the lessons. And see, this is what a lot of people don't understand, right? What you get out the lessons is the most important thing. We always look at what's done. Mm-mm. It's about the lesson. It's through adversity come change, and you realize that where you are in life, like I said, second principle, because God is driving the car, and wherever He put you at, that's where you're supposed to be. You must take the responsibility, and this is what we're not doing, you know. And it took me a long time myself to accept the responsibilities, because I was always a guy that always made an excuse. And 9 out of 10 times I wasn't wrong, but I've always made an excuse. That's why I say a lot, because I was always trying to get my point across. because I was telling the truth. And these are the things that you have to live and learn, and it don't happen overnight. I'll tell you in a minute, it took me almost 60 years to get it, but I'm glad I got it, you know. And like I said, it was a good thing, man, and he got a 15-year-old son, big boy. He built like my father's brother, Uncle Wesley, who was a football player, and he plays football. So he gonna be a big boy. At 15, he looked like he about my size. And that's a beautiful thing, man. You know. Um, but what I want to touch on is what happened yesterday. I talked it out, I got it out, but it still kind of bothers me because the part of me that always wants to uh my brother had a stroke. My brother Al, the one from Atlanta, the one that did what I told you about. He did, yeah, him. Um, yeah, but he's doing all right. Like I said, I talked to his son. He said that him and his sisters was on like a party line and they talked to him today. Yeah, and he's responding. So they're gonna have to talk about aftercare. Yeah, he'd be all right. He'd be all right, inshallah. And it was crazy, right? Tomorrow is his birthday. April 21st is his birthday. Tomorrow is his birthday. You know. Um, but you know, health is very important. Without health, we have nothing. Health is wealth. I just came from the doctor today about the heart uh thing that I went to. And they said it was not that bad, just one part, and they just want to look at it and give me, the medicine I'm taking. Just keep taking the medicine I'm taking. Yeah, no, not on his birthday. His birthday tomorrow. He been like that for the last 2 days, 2 or 3 days. So before his birthday, you know. But inshallah, he'll be better. I'm putting them doors for him. No, it was a serious stroke. No, it was a serious stroke, but it's being managed, I guess. You know. So they're gonna have to do aftercare with him. So I guess he's gonna, cause he's in Alabama. I guess he's gonna go back to Atlanta, where he's from. And his son said he has a new girlfriend. Cause he's going through divorce right now, and she's gonna take care of him. So that's good. So it's gonna, they're gonna tell him everything he has to do. Cause that's serious. And from what the nurse told me, that wasn't his first stroke. So and he's yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, with me, no, it's not that serious. No, no, it's not that serious. They want me to take some CoQ10 with the cholesterol medicine, so it helps flush the plaque out. So I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I ain't playing. Yeah, no question. Alhamdulillah. But yeah, inshallah, he'll pull through. We fighters. And only thing is, my mother died from a stroke. So I pray, and he's the type that he won't go to the doctor till shit get bad. So and he won't say nothing till it get bad. Excuse me. But yeah, um, yeah, you like that too? Yeah, that's not good though. That's really not good. Of course, you can't catch stuff. No, it ain't. No, it ain't that. What you got to understand, we all have a time when we're going to pass. It's either you're going to live a good life where you're healthy, or you're going to live a miserable life where you're sick, and you still got to live it to that time. So you might have 40 more years, 50 more years, but if you get sick, you're going to be sick for 50 years, and if you take care of yourself, you'll be healthy for those 50 years. So we never know when we're gonna go. So being healthy, you got people who's in the tip top shape that die early. So you can't say. It's only God knows. But we must take care of ourselves. We just like cars, and this is the analogy I use. We like old cars, right? If you take care of old car, keep it, maintain everything. Excuse me. It'll run like a new car, and it's 20 years old. But if you don't take care of that old car, in 20 years, it's going to be fucked up. You're going to have to get this fixed, that fixed, this fixed. But if you maintain it, it's like a body. You maintain it daily, and you keep it right, you're going to be all right. And even if you miss and you mess up for some years, you can always go back, because the body has memory. The body heals itself. You just have to eat the right things and exercise and do the right thing, get proper sleep and stuff like that, and you'll be able to heal. And you got to fast sometimes so your organs can rejuvenate themselves. It's a process. Living good is and living well, not living good, living right is a process. And everything that's good is a process, and it's not easy. Because if it's easy, everybody do it. So you just have to look at it that way. We have to take care of the temple. I know we smoke weed, but we don't do nothing else crazy. So we have to always try to keep our temple right. And like I was saying, it saddens me, right, when people don't heal, when they've had plenty of time. When people don't look in the mirror and accept their wrongs and say, it happened. That's it. Especially when you're forgiven. You know, um, it's just sad how people are so selfish, and they can do whatever to you, then villainize you like you the bad guy, because they don't want to accept their responsibility. And this is where I go back to the first principle, the second principle. Yeah, you're 100% right. A lot of people will die with the burden, and the person I'm talking about is that kind of person. They'll die with it, and it's sad. Let it go. I'm gonna pray for them to let it go, man, so they can heal, because if you want to be forgiven, you have to be able to forgive. And most importantly, forgive yourself. Like I always say, not an atom's weight of pride can enter the paradise. I ain't say this was God says, you know. Oh, and he says also, a coward and a liar can't enter the paradise. So you have to stop all those things. Like I said, you know, anything good, it takes work and it's going to be difficult. You have to train yourself to not do these things, and live right. You can't uh treat people bad and then blame them because you treated them bad. That I mean, like, you can't even make that up. And what baffles me is because, like I said, I've forgiven everyone. So it's no need to hold on to grudges. We never have to speak again in life. We never have to see each other ever again in life. And I'm cool with that. I just want you to forgive yourself. It ain't got to later for me, it's for you. Because like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, you're not a good Muslim until you want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. And I want to see everyone in paradise, happy, because I'm going to try to make my way there, with people or without people. But if I can help people, that's a blessing, you know. And that's why I'm saying this is a freestyle. I'm going to be bouncing all over the place because it's emotional, but it's not emotional. You know, it's looking at things that transpire, reflecting, and trying to understand how can a person still be stuck in an illusion. Like it doesn't make sense. Like, you don't realize the things that has transpired that you can't let go. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's the pride. And yeah, and the delusional. But you don't have to be. Excuse me. You don't have to be. It's like this, right? If a person tells you they forgive you, no matter what has transpired, whatever, they're not asking for an excuse or a reason, nothing. And you still want to keep lying after they tell you that they know the truth, and you know it's the truth. And like I said, you can lie to people, but you can't lie to God. You can even lie to yourself. I've seen people look at the president. He lies to himself all the time, and he thinks it's the truth. Like you said, delusional, and it's pride and ego. And what is ego? Ego is easing God out, and a lot of people do it. And I pray to God that I never have any of that left in me when it's my time to go, because it's not going to be nice. Like I said, he says a atom's weight, not an atom's weight, can enter the paradise. You can't even see an atom. You can't even weigh an atom. So this is how minute of this world you can take with you. You can't take none of it. Zero. Whatever you make, it's gonna stay. It's just like when you go to prison. Somebody else spend your money. You don't get to spend it, or you get to spend a little bit, unless you got good people and they gonna hold you down for real. But that's very few far in between. But yeah, we have to learn to let go so we can heal, man. I'm in such a great space in my life, and like I said, this platform here, this is how real this platform is. I have a book on Amazon. After getting shot 9 times, I created a book. Through Adversity Comes Change by me, Rich Coleman. And now I have a podcast in less than a year after this. See, it's all about the mental. It's not about uh pride, ego. No, it's about being able to say, you know what? I want better in my life. I want to do the right thing for the right reasons for from now on. And this is what it is. It's living right and doing right. And the only way you're going to do that is through adversity, change will take place. Your choices shape your adversities. Your adversities are your lessons to get you to your blessings. And this is just how life is. We would love to live our lives backwards. Let God give us everything at once. No, but we must live it forwards so we can get the lessons and the blessings. And then when you don't get the lessons, you repeat it. So you have to pay attention. But the only way you're going to pay attention is if you're 100% real with yourself. And this is why I say you have to be able to let go and let God. You have to be able to forgive yourself and understand that there's no instructions to life. And we make mistakes. It is what it is. And move on. You know, it's nothing like having a free spirit and knowing that you're living right by the Most High and you're living right by the people. One of the things that the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if your neighbor is hungry, you're not a good neighbor. If your neighbor's afraid when you're around, you're not a good neighbor. So the whole thing is spread love wherever you are. Take you wherever you are. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're able to heal. You have to be able to heal. You have to be able to forgive and forget, let go and let God. Because until you do that, you're going to be stuck. Trust me. Been there, done that. 28 years of my life in a cage. 28 years of my life in a cage. So I understand. I get it. I just want others to get it so they don't have to repeat the things that I've done, or change things in their lives that will help them. This is why I tell you, this is about helping everyone accept, achieve, and appreciate love. And the only way we're going to do that is that we have to heal first. We've all been sold a bill of goods, white, black, red, purple, green, and it's come from the people who we put in these offices to represent us. But what we have to understand is that they're all compromised now. It's no way we're fighting a war for a country that is not even really an ally to anyone. You know, it just doesn't make sense. And then when you're a person that can think, people say, "Oh no, something is wrong." No, we see what we see. You know, they finna send these young kids over there to get slaughtered. It's hard to be the people who are not afraid to die. You know, and we're gonna have to build our relationships around the world for the next 20 years because this administration has really done a very bad thing to diplomacy, but we have to do the right thing, and live right. What we need to get out of America is racism. That's the only thing that they have not declared uh, uh, a threat to our democracy, and it's one of the greatest threats. But when black people were trying to organize, they turned that into a great was Hoover said that the Black Panther Party was the greatest threat to American democracy and killed them people. We're not gonna get justice, marching or whatever, or voting because they stealing votes with these machines. We have to do the right thing by each other. We gotta heal, and once you heal, we can formulate all kinds of plans. I have a 30-year plan that if we implement it, in 30 years, we'll be in a very great place. But we have to heal first. Then we have to learn the lies from the truth. There's so much that hasn't been told, so much that has been omitted on purpose, and so many lies that were given to us for so many years that we think are the truth, and it's not, you know. But it's through adversity comes change. And the beautiful thing about what's going on now, if this didn't happen, if Kamala Harris would have won, we would have never even seen this. This would have probably been swept under the rug. But because this happened and he got back in there, this was a testament for America's dignity. They took a 34 convicted felon and a convicted rapist and a bunch of other cases that they had swept under the rug that's coming out now. And then with all the stuff on there that's pointing to him, they still support him. You have to be so uh, racist and want white supremacy to win that you just give up all your moral scruples and principles. And sometime, like I said, you have to just say, things happen. I was wrong, and move on. Ain't no question. Both sides are, but it's only one party. Like I always tell you, the 1%ers run the world. The people at the top. It's not Vanguard and it's not BlackRock. It's the people who own them. And they call the shots, like the Bilderberg conventions where they take a whole town and all the security is theirs from the leaders all around. And look, they have agendas. Look, this is what we're gonna do for the next 30 years. And this is what y'all better do, because if you don't, we'll get rid of you. You know, we see it as at a micro area, but with them is way bigger, way bigger. They call all the shots, you know. And this Iran thing was just they thought it was gonna be a walk in the park, and they were wrong about that. Yeah, it's no question. It's only one party. That you got the Democrats and the Republicans voting to send dump trucks and pickup trucks to Israel right now. Come on, man. What are you still giving them money for? Well, it is what it is. But we got to wise up. We got to start being entrepreneurs. We got to start building businesses and intertwining with each other so that we all will always win. But like I said, we can't do nothing until we heal and learn the truth from the lies. Period. It's just how it is. Because if you ain't healed, you're gonna have your own agenda. And see, this is the whole thing. In order for us to win, we have to all be on the same page because, like they say, united we stand, divided we fall. This is why they keep us separated. And once we come together, we have to be very quiet because these people are insidious, baffling, cunning, and they will kill you. And they have people that on the payroll, and that's just what they do. They get orders and they go and kill. And they can kill you in any way that they tell them to kill you to make it look like. They have the media, they have the doctors. So, it is what it is. It's just like Epstein. They say he died. He's not dead. You seen him in Israel, you seen him in Florida. And it's crazy because before the bombing, he was in Israel. And after the bombing, you seen him in Florida. They know he's alive, you know, and that's a crime. Of course, Trump was the president then, and he had Bill Barr to say that he killed himself. And when they knew, they took him out of there alive. And all the cameras. I did years in that prison, and I know when you're in 10 South, there's no way. It's a glass cell. You sleep on a mattress on a concrete slab. The police sit outside the door. There's no way you can do that. So it is what it is. But we're going to be paying the American people. Yeah, very crazy. But the American people are going to be paying for this grift that they voted back in office for the next 50 years. Their great grandchildren are going to be paying this bill because they're going to steal trillions. And they're stealing trillions right now. They've caught every cabinet member sending money to offshore accounts in the billions. It's on there. You can look at YouTube, every last one of them. And then they plead the fifth. We have to come together as a human race to save humanity. God is not bad. God doesn't want destruction. God is not hate. So if you got hate in your heart, you don't have no God in your heart. You can say you have God in your heart, but if you have any kind of hate in your heart, you don't have God in your heart. Because God is love and love is God. That's the last principle of heal. Love. And most people don't. Most people don't have love in their heart because they never learn what love is. You have to be able to accept, then achieve, then appreciate it. And most of us never had it, so they don't know. And the one that we thought was love, it wasn't love because we would never got screwed. But this is how life is. But you can't take it personal. You have to accept it for what it is and move on. Because things happen. You know, my father always said this. He said, "Ain't nothing closer than teeth and gums, and they fall out." Let me say that again. There's nothing closer than teeth and gums, and they fall out. Think about that. So, if you get a real friend in a lifetime, just one, two at the most, in a whole lifetime, you've accomplished a world. See, because a lot of people don't understand, they think it's about the money. No, friendships mean more to me than any amount of money. You know, a friendship and a relationship means more than anything. That's why I never break my friendships or uh, relationships. I'm always the one to get the short end of the stick, but I know that God gonna take care of me in the long run. So it is what it is. Some of us are built to take it. Some of us are not. How many people you know could do 28 years in federal prison and staying strong, get shot 9 times, then write a book, then do a podcast, and then try to get your other devices and things uh out to the world. So, some people are just built that way. And I thank God that I am, and I'm not bitter. I want us to heal. I want us all to heal. I want us all to win. And most people don't want to win. They're so comfortable with being uncomfortable. But you have to learn to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable so that one day you can be comfortable with being comfortable forever. You have to take every journey starts with the first step. If you don't take that first step, you can't go nowhere. Always have to take that first step and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And sooner or later you'll get there, you know. But yeah, it's just sad, man, how people are. But that's life. And just because someone is one way doesn't mean you have to be that way as well. Just understand that. Always live right and do the right thing no matter what no one else does. Because everyone has to pay for whatever action they do. You stay good, you stay right. And no matter what, live right, do the right thing, and watch how God bless your life. And with that, I'm gone. Tech pan out. Y'all have a blessed night. And like I always say, how's your spirit? How's your connection with God? Make it stronger. Make them prayers. Do what you got to do. Because, man, in the end, we all got to pay. All right, my brother, you have a good night too. Peace. Y'all have a blessed one. Tack man out. One love.